Precious had always been captivated by the world of K-pop, K-dramas, and Korean culture. From a young age, she found herself enchanted by Seoul's streets, the vibrant energy of K-pop concerts, and the endearing charm of the K-drama heroes. What began as a fascination blossomed into a dream she held close to her heart. To her, Korea wasn't just a distant land on the other side of the world. It was home in a way. For years she immersed herself in learning the language, memorizing every K-pop song and watching K-dramas until the late hours of the night. But even with all the online lessons, Korean snacks and endless hours of television, she never quite felt connected to the world she adored. Until one day, everything changed. She discovered a prestigious international school in Seoul, one where students studied in English but were fully immersed in Korean culture. It was the perfect opportunity for Precious, the chance to live her dream and experience Korea like never before. After months of meticulously perfecting her application, writing an essay that poured her soul into it, the letter arrived. Acceptance. She was going to Seoul. Her heart raced as she packed her things, and the excitement was palpable as she made her way to the city. It felt like stepping into a K-drama episode of her own life. Her first few days in Seoul were a blur of excitement and nerves. The city was everything she'd imagined. Bustling streets filled with people, a beautiful mix of modern skyscrapers and traditional hanok houses, and the aroma of street food wafting through the air. Precious stayed with a kind host family who helped her adjust, but the feeling of being in a new country, a new world, was still overwhelming at times. One evening, after a quiet dinner with her host family, Precious decided to step out and explore. She had heard about a cozy cafe nearby that was known for its warm drinks and quiet ambience. It felt like the perfect place to unwind and reflect on her journey so far. As she walked through the streets of Seoul, the city felt alive around her. The cool breeze, the neon lights, and the hum of conversation in the air. It was everything she'd imagined and more. She entered the cafe and ordered a glass of sake, a traditional Korean drink, and found a corner table by the window. Her mind was racing. Tomorrow was her first day at the school, and she couldn't help but wonder if her new life was going to be as exciting as the K-dramas she'd watched. But just as she picked up her phone to check the time, disaster struck. Her hand brushed against the glass, and with a loud clink, the drink toppled over, spilling across the table. Her face turned crimson as she scrambled to clean up the mess. She could feel everyone in the cafe staring at her, and her embarrassment deepened. Just when she thought the world was about to swallow her up in humiliation, a voice interrupted her thoughts. "Hey, it's okay. Let me help you." Startled, Precious looked up. Standing before her was a boy who looked like he had stepped right out of a K-drama. He had sharp, defined features, high cheekbones, a sharp jawline, and his eyes were kind, filled with genuine warmth. His smile was effortless, the kind that made her heart skip a beat. He kneeled down to help her clean up the mess, his movements smooth and graceful. "Don't worry," he said, his voice reassuring. "These things happen." Precious could hardly focus on anything but him. This boy. He looked exactly like the kind of guy she had seen in every K-drama she adored, handsome, confident, and effortlessly cool. But now, here he was, helping her clean up a mess she had made. "Thanks," she managed to mutter, still feeling the heat of embarrassment rushing to her cheeks. "No problem," he replied, his smile lingering just a little too long. "I'm Jaemin, by the way." "Precious," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Nice to meet you, Precious. You'll get used to the city soon," Jaemin said with a smile that made her heart race. As he walked back to his table, Precious sat there in a daze. Her mind was spinning. Had that really just happened? Had she just met the kind of guy she had always seen in her K-dramas? The guy who seemed too perfect to be real? She looked out the window, the neon lights of the city flickering outside, and for a moment, she wondered if she was dreaming. But no, it was real. She had just met a boy who seemed like he could have been cast in the role of her very own K-drama hero. And who knows, maybe this encounter was just the beginning of her own story, one filled with excitement, love, and all the drama she had always dreamed about. The next day, Precious walked into her new school, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had spent the evening mentally preparing for this new chapter in Seoul. The school's modern architecture and bustling students overwhelmed her, but a small part of her felt uneasy. Her first day at a new school was always going to be tough, especially as a foreigner. But what made her feel out of place was thinking about Jaemin, the boy who had been so kind to her at the cafe. As she entered her new classroom, her heart skipped a beat when she saw him. Jaemin. She recognized him immediately, with his warm smile and presence that had caught her off guard at the cafe. It was like seeing a familiar face in a sea of strangers. Precious hesitated. Should she approach him? Should she acknowledge their brief encounter? Before she could decide, Jaemin looked her way. Their eyes met for a second, and Precious thought she saw recognition in his gaze. But it quickly vanished. He looked at her indifferently and walked past her to his desk, barely glancing her way. Her heart sank. Was he pretending not to recognize her? Why had he ignored her? She was sure they had shared a real moment at the cafe. But now he was treating her like they had never met. Confused and hurt, Precious sat down at her desk, trying to brush off the strange feeling in her chest. Maybe she was overthinking it. After all, he was popular, and she was just a new student. Maybe he didn't think it was a big deal. Or maybe, as she feared, he was just polite to strangers. Throughout the class, Precious couldn't focus. Her mind kept returning to the moment when he walked right past her. Was he embarrassed to acknowledge her in front of everyone? Did he think she was just another random girl? The more she thought about it, the more disappointed she felt. She had hoped their brief interaction meant something, but now she wasn't so sure. Maybe she had misunderstood everything. As if things weren't complicated enough, Precious noticed several girls flocking to Jaemin's side, all trying to get his attention. He was handsome, charming and popular, everything Precious wasn't. But what struck her was how he didn't seem interested in any of them. He was polite but distant, locked in his own world. This left Precious more confused. Was he focused on his reputation, or was it something more? Despite his popularity, he seemed distant from everyone around him. As the day wore on, Precious tried her best to focus on schoolwork, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Jaemin. Did he recognize her? Did he care? Why was he so distant when he had been kind just yesterday? The bell rang, signaling the end of class. As she gathered her things, she saw something that made her heart sink even further. Jaemin had already left, walking down the hallway without a second glance in her direction. The next day, the unease from yesterday still lingered in Precious's mind. She couldn't stop replaying the moment in class when Jaemin had ignored her. Had she done something wrong? Was she being too sensitive? She tried to brush it off, but it was harder than expected. Every time she saw Jaemin in the hallways or in class, his distant attitude felt like a silent rejection. But then, a new student caught her eye, a girl who walked into the classroom with an air of confidence that grabbed everyone's attention. The moment she entered, whispers rippled through the room. Hana was stunning, with flawless skin, long flowing hair and a designer handbag. It didn't take long for Precious to realize that Hana wasn't just another pretty face. She was a force to be reckoned with. Hana's presence was magnetic, and it was clear people admired and respected her. But to Precious, there was something more. Hana wasn't just beautiful and popular, she was dangerous. As the day went on, Precious noticed Hana seemed to have eyes only for Jaemin. During every break, she was either talking to him or sitting next to him, her hand resting casually on his. Each time Precious saw them together, she couldn't help but feel a sting of jealousy. Why did Hana, someone who clearly had it all, need to be all over Jaemin? Precious tried to ignore it, telling herself it wasn't her business, but it wasn't easy. Every time she caught sight of the two of them laughing or sharing a private conversation, it became harder to push the thoughts out of her mind. Later that day, after class, Precious found herself walking alone in the hallway when she saw Hana standing in front of Jaemin's locker. Hana's laughter filled the air, and as she leaned closer to him, Precious saw Jaemin smile. A smile that wasn't just polite but genuine. Precious felt a pang. Was it insecurity or jealousy? Either way, it bothered her. Jae-min had been cold to her all day, but here he was, laughing and enjoying Hana's company. She wanted to believe it didn't matter, but the hurt was hard to ignore. Just as Precious was about to turn away, Jae-min's eyes met hers. For a brief moment, their gazes locked, and it was as if everything else disappeared. But then, just as quickly, he turned back to Hana, completely oblivious to Precious's presence. That was the breaking point for Precious. It wasn't just the coldness or the distance between them. It was the sudden realization that maybe she had misread everything. She wasn't sure what Jae-min was thinking, but it felt like he had already moved on. And Hana? She was a force Precious couldn't compete with. Precious turned away, her heart heavy with disappointment. She had told herself not to let this situation affect her, but it did. As she walked away, uncertainty washed over her. Was there even a chance for her and Jae-min, or was she just another girl lost in his world? Meanwhile, Hana, watching the entire exchange, couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. She had seen how Precious looked at her and Jae-min, and she knew she had already won. Hana wasn't about to let anyone, least of all Precious, ruin her plans. The next few days at school felt like a whirlwind for Precious. She tried to focus on her studies, but every time she walked through the halls, it seemed like everything pointed back to Jae-min and Hana. Seeing them together was a constant reminder of the confusion, jealousy, and unspoken feelings she was caught in. What frustrated her the most was Jae-min's behavior. One moment he acted distant, like he didn't remember their shared moment at the cafe, and the next he would glance her way with a look that made her heart race. She couldn't figure him out. That morning, as Precious entered class, something felt different. Jae-min was at his usual spot, surrounded by his friends. When she walked in, their eyes met. It was brief, but enough to stop her in her tracks. He didn't smile, didn't wave, but there was something in his gaze that made her feel like he truly saw her. He quickly turned back to his friends, as if the moment didn't happen, but the intensity lingered in the air. She sat at her desk, her heart fluttering. It was maddening how something as small as a glance could unsettle her so much. As the day went on, Precious couldn't ignore that Jae-min seemed to be paying more attention to her. It wasn't obvious to everyone, but she noticed the subtle shifts in his behavior. When they passed in the hallway, he'd glance over quickly, checking if she was there. When she laughed with her friends, he would look her way, his expression unreadable. It was a strange back and forth that left her wondering what it all meant. At lunch, Precious tried to ignore the fact that Hana was sitting with Jae-min across the cafeteria. She couldn't bring herself to look at them, focusing instead on her food, trying to drown out the noise. But then, a familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. "Hey, Precious!" She turned to find Jae-min standing near her table, a hesitant smile on his face. "Hi," she said softly, unsure of how to react. Was he here to talk, or was this just another awkward encounter? "I was wondering if you'd want to walk home together after school," he asked, his voice nervous. "If you're not busy." Precious blinked, surprised. The day before he barely acknowledged her, and now he was asking to spend time together? Was he genuinely interested, or was this just a casual invitation? She nodded slowly, hiding her surprise. "Sure, I'd like that." As he walked away, her heart raced. Was this really happening? Was Jae-min finally showing interest in her? But just as quickly as excitement bubbled up, doubt crept in. Was he asking out of kindness, or because Hana was watching? Meanwhile, Jae-min was in turmoil. He had always been the popular guy, confident and untouchable. But since meeting Precious, things had changed. She wasn't like the other girls who fawned over him, and that was refreshing. But he couldn't let his feelings show without risking his reputation. Every time he saw Precious, his heart skipped a beat. She made him feel things he wasn't used to. But now, standing in front of her and asking her to walk home, he realized he couldn't keep pretending. The attraction was real, and he had to find a way to show her how he truly felt. The walk home that day felt like something out of a dream. Precious and Jae-min walked side by side through the golden-lit streets of Seoul, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows behind them. For a while, neither spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was just filled with all the questions neither knew how to ask. Jaemin occasionally glanced at her from the corner of his eye. Precious kept her gaze ahead, afraid that looking at him too long would reveal how nervous and excited she was. "You don't talk much," he finally said with a slight smile. Precious chuckled. "Neither do you." He nodded, looking like he wanted to say more, but instead he sighed. "I guess I've had a lot on my mind." "Me too," she admitted. They paused at a small park. The sky was painted with pink and purple, and the wind was gentle. Jaemin sat on a bench, motioning for her to join him. "Can I ask you something?" he said after a pause. "Sure," she replied. "Back at the cafe you recognized me, right?" She looked at him, caught off guard. "Yes, of course. You acted like you didn't know me." He lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry, I didn't know how to act. I've always had people around me expecting me to be a certain way. I didn't want to seem weak." "Being kind doesn't make you weak," she said gently. He looked at her. "Really look. That's what I'm learning. I noticed you the moment you walked into class. I remembered you from the cafe, and since then, it's been hard not to stare." Her heart pounded. "Then why push me away?" "I didn't mean to," he said. "I was scared. You're different. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're just you. And that scares me, because I think I like that way too much." There was a silence as she tried to process his words. "I don't know what this means for us," he added, "but I want to figure it out with you." Before she could answer, someone approached. It was Hana. "Well, isn't this cozy?" she said with a cold smile. Jaemin stood. "Hana, not now." She ignored him, turning to Precious. "I hope you're not misunderstanding. Jaemin's just being friendly. He does this all the time." "Hana, stop," he said firmly. "This isn't your business." Precious stood too, calm but firm. "It's okay. I know exactly what's happening here." Hana gave her a smug look and walked off, her heels clicking on the pavement. Jaemin turned to Precious. "Don't listen to her, please." She looked at him, unsure. Part of her wanted to trust him, but another part, bruised by doubt, held her back. "I want to believe you," she said softly, "but things keep getting complicated." "I'll make it simple," he said, stepping closer. "Just give me a chance." The situation with Hana escalated. She began to spread rumors about Precious, trying to isolate her from the other students. Whispers followed Precious in the hallways, and friendly smiles quickly turned into suspicious glances. Hana's tactics were subtle. Little remarks here and there, carefully placed comments meant to chip away at Precious's growing confidence. She also made quiet insinuations to Jaemin, planting seeds of doubt that slowly took root. At first he brushed them off, but Hana knew exactly what she was doing. She mentioned things like, "Precious talks to a lot of boys lately," or "Maybe she's just curious about Korean guys in general, not you." Though she masked it as concern, her words lingered in his mind. One afternoon, Jaemin overheard a conversation that broke him. He was walking past the music room when he caught snippets of Precious talking to another student. The laughter, the friendly tone, it all seemed innocent. But when he heard the boy say something like, "Are you sure you don't like me?" instead of Jaemin, and Precious didn't immediately reply, his heart sank. The context was completely misunderstood, but to Jaemin it felt like confirmation of Hana's doubts. He turned and walked away, his chest heavy with confusion. Meanwhile, Precious had her own moment of heartbreak. She had passed by the stairwell where Jaemin and his friends often hung out, and had paused upon hearing her name. "She's cool and all," Jaemin was saying, "but I don't know what I'm doing. Everyone expects me to be with Hana. I'm already under enough pressure as it is." Those words echoed in her heart. She didn't wait to hear the rest, didn't hear the part where he said, "But I can't stop thinking about Precious." To her, it was rejection, proof that he was just toying with her feelings. Feeling small and foolish, Precious withdrew into herself. She stopped smiling as much, stopped making eye contact with him in class. She figured it had all been a game and she had lost. But the silence between them grew heavier by the day. Jaemin couldn't take it anymore. One afternoon, he found her sitting alone in a quiet corner of the school garden, her face turned away, eyes distant. He walked over slowly, heart pounding. Precious. She looked up, startled. He sat beside her, taking a deep breath. "I've been an idiot," he said, his voice raw. "I've hurt you without meaning to. I like you, Precious. I've liked you for a long time, but I didn't know how to show it." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought you didn't care. I thought I wasn't good enough for you, that I was just a joke." Jamie shook his head firmly. "No, it's never been like that. I've just been too afraid to show how I really feel." They both laughed softly, the tension easing, realizing how easily they had let others get between them. Their relationship wasn't without its challenges. Hana, still bitter about losing Jaemin's attention, continued to stir trouble with more rumors and subtle manipulation. But this time, Jaemin stood his ground. He confronted Hana in front of others, his voice calm but firm. "I'm done with the drama," he told her. "You don't get to control my life or my feelings. I'm not playing your games anymore." Hana was stunned, but the message was clear. Jaemin had made his choice. From then on, he and Precious grew closer. They learned to trust each other, to communicate, and to navigate the pressure of school life side by side. Despite their different backgrounds and the whispers that still lingered from time to time, they focused on what mattered: each other. By the end of the school year, Precious had truly found her place in Korea, not just as a foreigner trying to fit in, but as the girl who had captured the heart of the most popular boy in school. Though they faced ups and downs, they stood strong together, proving that even in the world of K-drama, love could break barriers. With respect, trust, and a little bit of fate, they knew that their bond was something special, something worth fighting for. Graduation day arrived. As the school year ended, Precious looked around the campus that once felt foreign. Now, it felt like home. Beside her stood Jaemin, his hand wrapped gently around hers. Despite rumors, pressure, and misunderstandings, they had chosen each other. "I'm glad I met you," he said softly. She smiled. "Me too." As they walked across the stage to applause, all Precious could hear was her heartbeat and Jaemin's steady presence. It wasn't a perfect fairy tale, but it was real, and that made it beautiful. Together they stepped into the next chapter, side by side. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.